All right, everybody, welcome to the Groundsmen. Studies, man. That top order just demolished me. So normally what that structure looks like is that and honestly, that's part of why the groundsmen are here as well, so that you don't have to wait for Coke Week in order to see who's who and what's what. All right, everybody, welcome to the Groundsmen, where we have everything that has to do with school cricket, what's going on, roundup for the weekend, what the boys are doing, how they're doing it, who's doing well, who's not. And as usual, on this segment of the show, I've got my co-host T. How you doing, dog?
Doing good, man. Week 2. I'm ready to get it. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Week two, and so much happened over the weekend. Some of the schools got on with some of their games, some warm-up games. You saw some fantastic performances, man. I'll tell you what, some of these batting performances that I've seen over this past weekend, you would think that these boys have been sitting at home. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of these batting performances, clearly they've been doing some shadow batting. There was the LPL in Joburg, the CPL in Cape Town, but like these senior boys have just been added, and I think we got some fantastic players we're going to talk about. I know you enjoy hearing about these scores and what these boys are doing, so I think we're gonna have a good time, man. We're gonna have a good time today.
Yeah, man. I'm keen to see. It sounds as if the rust is off already. I was hoping. I thought I'm looking at hearing scores of around 30. It was looking good. Um, Worked on. So this is what I'm expecting in this episode. I don't have high expectations for these guys.
Yeah,
First games of the season. I'm expecting to hear you talking about 30 odd, 40 odd, outstanding performances, 57 odd out, warm up, getting the rust off. So, unless I'm shooting a gun here, unless I'm underestimating these guys.
no, listen. I think there's a lot to go by, man. I mean, let's jump straight into it, right? Let's not beat around the
Yeah.
bush. We've got some great players some good players, some young players we've seen get an opportunity to play for their senior side that have done really well. We games that we're reviewing today. Let's sort of jump straight into it. We're reviewing sort of St Stithians first versus Potch Gim's first team. They had their game this
Okay.
weekend, so that's an interesting one. We had a massive score there by St Stithians, man. That top order just demolished Gim's, right? Like it was
How
scary because
bad is bad?
well, it's bad enough for us to take notice, right? It's bad enough for us to sort of highlight who scored runs. Just to give you an overview before we drill deeper into it, essentially St. Stithians won. They won by 283 runs, and that alone should tell you.
They won by how much?
They won by 283 runs, right? They scored 391 for three. Jimmy scored 108 all out in 29 overs.
108 all out.
108 all out. Since Stithians batted first, they were playing at home. It's, I mean, if you we'll go into it a little bit later, but honestly, it just seems like, honestly, it was just a long drive home for Jimmy's. Like, we know where Northwest is, right? Potchefstroom in particular. Like, it was a proper long drive home for these boys. They came out. I'm pretty sure they were quite enthusiastic. I watched most of the game, not all of it, and I got a bit of the highlights, but you could see the boys were there to play. Really, Jimenez did not come there taking chances. They knew that they're playing St. Stithians second in sort of the cricket rankings over the last decade. They knew they were challenging sort of one of the big boys in the league. But I don't think they were ready for what they found.
Yeah. You know what it is, man? It's understanding that that rankings are there for a reason. That
Yeah,
there's levels to the stuff. That you may be good, and Khimis is a really good team.
yeah,
Khimis is traditionally known as a school that produces a lot of good players. So this is where now, and I think that's what the groundsmen do, right? We're here to show you that there's levels to this game, so everybody understands what they got to do to be at the top.
yeah, yeah,
That when you play a team like St Stithians and you're not prepared, buddy, they're gonna smash 380 plus against you. You need to prepare better. That's
yeah,
what the groundsmen are here to do. We're here to help you prepare better, man. Or
yeah.
else you're gonna go out there and have a Khimi's outing and have to drive back. They probably drove back at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is never good.
Even worse, dude. This is
If
a
you've
50 over
lost.
game, right? So they drove back at like 5:30.
They couldn't have. They couldn't have. They got bowled out for 190. Those boys should have gotten home early. They got home before 5.
Well, I'm looking at the fact that they batted like 29 overs, right? So you got 20
Yeah.
overs to go. That maybe gives you sort of an hour and a bit in left in the game. Um, so maybe
Fair enough.
let's say about 3 o'clock, around 3:30, they sent them home
I mean, yeah, let's be honest, guys. They made it home before the street lights came out. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
before it got dark, mate.
I know they were home before the kids that are playing street cricket had to go home.
Listen, there was a lot of trauma, man. Anyway, we'll jump into that St. Stithians and Khami's game. Roundup, we had I think because a lot of the top 20 schools on our list weren't playing this weekend. Some guys like Great College and them had like an inter club thing that they were playing, so we're not going to review that. All right, so that's sort of
Yeah.
inter school things. And yeah, so a lot of the guys hadn't necessarily got out onto the park. There's some live games today, some under 15 games that are out. And the schools are starting to get going again. So it gave us an opportunity to review some of
Hey.
the schools outside of our top 20, which I thought was really fantastic as well. So I think the one we need to sort of have a look. Okay, Waterkloof is in there already. So Waterkloof beat Montana this weekend. They won by 288 runs.
Just hold on. I just want to check in. You said under 15s are playing today.
Yeah, they're playing today. They're playing a
So
40. They're playing a 40 over game. You know those where they sort of play half the day and then they change innings and then they play sort of the last bit tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah, and also remember some of these
Is
schools
this
have
a new
lights.
thing?
No, juniors generally used to play on the weekday, but they play like a 35 over game.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd leave school early to start the game so that at least by like 5:30, because it's summer, they'd still be able
Yeah.
to sort of finish the game. If it's like a 35 over game, but this 40 over game, I think they're probably gonna lay over and then sort of finish the rest of the game tomorrow. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how the sort of the programs work, right? So the weekends are usually saved for the A team games and specifically the first team games. So usually senior players are the ones that will play on a Saturday, and then during the week they'll fit in like on the 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s. They'll probably also play on the 17s on the weekend. So that's I think that's generally how the schools manage the work, the manage the usage of the fields, and that's how the leagues are structured as well. Cool.
Yeah, because they also gotta keep preparing the pitches and stuff. So it
Exactly.
makes sense
Exactly.
that they have to figure out a way to spread out the games on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So back to Waterkloof, Montana. They won their game. Waterkloof beat Montana by 288 runs. And then we had another game out in the Northwest. We had Rustenburg High School, a very good cricketing school, I think, out in that Northwest area. Quite a few Northwest players have come out of there. I think did Dwayne Pretorius play for went to Rustenburg High, yeah?
Yes. Kwena used to go to school Rustenburg.
Worst
Shout
school
out to them.
Rustenburg. Yeah, produced players like Dwayne. So they're a good school, and I can see how they were able to do so well. We had Rustenburg High School in Rustenburg playing against Fields College. Not a bad matchup. I mean, Rustenburg High won by 202 runs. Again, like some massive defeats across the board, but there were some Fields College, I think, did put up a fight. I just think Rustenburg High were just far better prepared in this case.
How much did Fields score? What was the scores there?
We'll get into that. We'll get into that, man.
I'm
Let's.
trying to find out.
I
Gotta
and
get
I,
the juice.
and
Give
I
me the
knew
juice.
I knew that's what you were gonna ask, right? So the first game of the roundup is Rustenburg High versus Fields College. Rustenburg High batted first. They scored 425 for 7. Um, a moment of silence there.
That means he's starting to feel a little bit better right now.
Yeah, the Khamis is like, oh, okay. At least we didn't cop a 400 over the weekend.
Almost hit half a ton, but
Yeah, so Rustenburg guys scored 425 for 7. Some outstanding performance out there, which I think need to be mentioned. Waldo Mankey out there in Rustenburg scoring 97. That's a hard one to take. Three away from 100 is a difficult one.
how
And
do you go
then
out? You chuck it.
uh he got caught. Okay, he got caught. So there's a possibility that he chucked it there. I didn't watch that particular game, but if you get caught on 97, you're trying to go for glory. You're trying
So
to
look for one.
just look
Look
for
on
one,
for one.
man.
One.
Tick
Be
it
100,
over.
then push on, bud.
Exactly. So not too bad. We got another player coming in at 7. In Van Onselen, right? I'm still looking for his first name. I just can't pick up his first name, but surname Van Onselen came in at 7, scored 101 in 49 balls, at a strike rate of 206, my man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That boy came in and just punished. He had disregard. He didn't have any regard for any of the field's bowlers. He had
None of
no
the field
regard. He
bowlers,
came in
man.
there and punished.
Yeah, no, he demolished them. Honestly, like to score 101 in 49 balls at a strike rate of 206. That means that's a stand and deliver kind of opera. That's a Chris Gale kind of innings, right? Where it really doesn't matter where you pitch it, you're going. You're in the trees.
What position was he batting?
He came in at 7, mate.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You've been tiring all this time. You get to number 7 and then he pummels you for an extra 100.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a tough day out.
And mind you, their top order, so 1 and 2 scored 8 and 43. And at that moment, you're like, all right, guys, we're making progress, right? We're pushing on. Number 3 comes in, which is almost always a quality batsman that you're going to have to work to get out. That was Mankey, who came in and scored 97. So that was a workman's innings, although he batted at a strike rate. He batted at a strike rate of 139. So he wasn't necessarily batting slowly. And as a team, you're like, okay. I mean, when Mankey came in, you're like, okay, one of the openers are out. Here we go, right? You probably get the next opener out quite quickly because the guys, the 2 opening, one scored 8, the other one scored 43. And then you get sort of number 4 who scored 26, number 5 who scored 30, number 6 who scored 17, probably all batting with Mankey, right? So you're thinking, okay, this guy's scoring runs, but we're picking off the guy on the other end.
Yeah, you're starting to feel good.
Yeah. In walks Van Onselen. Yeah, listen, I feel for the Fields boys, right? I think they did put up a fight. They scored 223 for 8. They batted their 50 overs. So
200
that
and?
223 for 8.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
With a couple of 50 contributions from the boys. We had David Mozambi coming in scoring 50, opening the batting, which is decent. I mean, you can imagine as a top order batsman, your team has just conceded 425 runs. You're like, okay, I need to stick around, right? Um, then you
He
sort of,
got stuck in. He got stuck in.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's a fighting effort. And you come in sort of number 3, comes in, what is it? His name's Mohammed Babulia, comes in, scores 61.
Oh,
Um,
Bulls. We see you,
Bulls.
Bully. We see you, Bulls. Let us
shout
know
out,
if it's
shout out
any
to Bulls.
relation to Kata Bulbulia, Azhar Bulbulia, Yusuf Bulbulia. Let
Yusuf
us know if there's
Babulia.
any relation
Hey, shout out. Listen, if there is any relation there, give us a shout. Comes from a long line of Babulia cricketers. So
of those boys. Good
yeah,
guys.
yeah, did well, contributed to the Northwest cricket teams along the way over the last sort of 15, 20 years. Good family. And then we had sort of one boy, Samuel Bobrian, coming in scoring 50 as well. Kudos to them. So I think the Fields boys did well. It was a decent sort of run. If you're chasing 425 and you listen to the Proteas when they chased that 438 game, right? Um,
Mm.
they too sort of came in and said, you know what? Let's just bat. Let's just bat and conserve as many wickets as possible. And I think as they got to sort of that 280, 300 odd mark, um, that's when sort of Gibbsy said, you know what? I think we can go here. I, I think we have a shot. So I think they may have gone the same strategy. Unfortunately, I don't think they had the firepower in the middle order to be able to chase it down. But absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic start to the season for Rustenburg High. A lot of good takeouts, I think, for Fields College, considering they are a smaller school. But definitely some talent out there in the Northwest. Yeah, so you can see. I mean, they did relatively well. I think there was some good takeaways from the game. I think the boys did try and push out. Definitely some talent out in Rustenburg. A fantastic start for Rustenburg High. Congratulations, Rustenburg High. But I think you're going to have a couple of tougher games coming up as the boys shake off the rust.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you can see that the Fields guys can bat. I mean, 3 guys scored a 50. If 2 of those guys had pushed on, they would have won the game.
Yeah,
Or if 2 of those guys had converted, they would have won the game. And I think that just speaks to guys understanding that as levels go up, that's really the difference between how you make it into the provincial side. It's the guys that can convert. The guys that can go, Bulls, you got to move that 61 all the way up to 100 now. You got to
yeah,
convert. All we got to do is convert, Jen. So the guys out there, those 50s aren't enough. I see a lot of guys, this 2020 game, it's made guys think that 50 is enough. You get
yeah,
50, you've done a good job. No, but
yeah,
we come from the school that 100 is 100. 100 is 100. You got to convert. Once you get to 50, if you're a top order batsman, the expectation is that you're going to score 100.
yeah, yeah. Especially because you're playing against that new ball, right? So what we've sort of every cricketer has come to understand is that more often than not, you're more likely to get a jaff at the top of the order than you are lower down when the ball's a little bit older. So if you get an
Yeah.
opportunity to put runs on the board in the top order to get out at 50, get out at 61, it just shows a bit of inexperience. You have to be able to convert. And you'll see when we move to the St Stithians versus Kemi's game, you'll see what those batsmen did. And that's what we're talking about now. So for the moms, dads, players out there that are sort of thinking, oh, I scored a 50, yes, congratulations, great. You're competing. You're not competing with just yourself. You're competing with every other player around the country that's trying to get into that SA school side, or that's trying to get into that academy side in your in your province, or getting to the provincial sides around the country. So you have to convert. You cannot leave an opportunity where you scored a 50 and you weren't able to get to that 100, because the guys out here that are going to overtake you, and you're going to wonder to yourself come the end of the year, how did I not make it?
Facts.
Yeah. So moving on, last game of the weekend that we're reviewing is the St Stithians versus Chimi's game. Again, like we said, it was a difficult one, man. I don't think Chimi's came out to not play, but I think St Stithians also had a bit of a surprise package for Chimi. So I think the top order, just to review again to start it off right. So St Stithians scored 391 for 3 in 50 overs. And Potch Gim's scored 108 in 108 all out in 29.4 overs. All right. So that's sort of the
Yep.
framing around overview around what happened. Honestly, most of that sort of 391 was scored by the top two guys. Right. We've got a young man called
What?
Ruben Dutoy and Josh Elliott.
Okay.
Okay. Ruben
Okay.
Dutoy and Josh Elliott. Ruben Dutoy comes in and scores 168 with a strike rate of 131. Okay.
Conversion. Okay.
Conversion, boys. Conversion, not just 100, but a 150. Right. Josh Elliott comes in, also opening the batting with Ruben, scores 150 in 149 balls at a strike rate of 100. Right. So these are boys that, and I want everybody to sort of think carefully around what I'm saying. You have a boy that's out there who's trying to, he considers himself a batsman, and is really looking out to try and make a career out of this thing. The game today has changed, man. The days of a Jacques Callis coming in, scoring 168 at a strike rate of 75 is no longer gonna win you games, because you have
Yeah.
top order batsmen scoring at a strike rate of 130 or 100 at a run a ball or more, at the top of the order against a new ball.
I mean, it's fast paced, man. Back in the day, we would expect the opening guys. Their memo was just get through the first 10 overs.
Mm.
Nowadays, that's changed. You got to get through the first 10 overs and at least have us 70 plus.
Yeah.
Within the first 10. As an opening batsman, that's what's expected of you. So these boys understand that not only do we expect you to do that, but if you do get past the 10 overs, now we expect you to push on, because now you're in.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that coaches hate, is when a player's in and he chucks it, because now the next guy has to first go through the period of trying to get in again. When you were in, it
Yeah.
was on you, bud.
Yeah. You were in. You are seeing beach balls right now, right? So for you to chuck it is almost leaving your team to hang out to dry. So it was fantastic, and you can see with the next two guys that came in, Kai Pillay and Richard Seletswane came in, and Kai also sort of carried on with this at a strike rate of 121, so he scored 23 and 19. And then you have Richard Seletswane that came in and scored 30 of 12 at 250 strike rate. So you can see that the tone was set by the two opening batsmen that were there. And you can imagine, I mean, these number 3 and 4 had pad rash for a while, right? So they were just like, okay, we're in now. And they probably came in quite late in the innings as well. And were able to really just butcher. I mean, I saw a few shots from Seletswane, and listen, I think if the boy had a little bit, if he had a few more overs to bat, If the boy had a few more overs to bat, I think he would have done a lot of damage.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, man. I think that the St Stithians team, can I just say, if you go back to our first episode, the previous episode before this, I have put St Stithians as my team. And boy, have they shown up. They've shown. They've reassured me. They've reassured me that they got this. They got some killers in that team. Those boys are some killers. We didn't even need to get down to the middle order that much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Well
they
done
they
to them,
are
man.
ruthless. They are ruthless. These boys. They got in. They smelled blood. There's blood in the water, and they just went hard. And that's what
Can
you
we
want, right?
what's the bowling look like? What's the bowling order look like? Because I'm interested in those killers. Those killers that went, they scored 380 odd, and then these pack of wolves came out and just decided to not leave anything left behind.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
even give them some easy overs.
Listen, man. I have to. I, I watched a lot of games over the weekend, and I also watched a lot of bowling, a lot of batting, and I was fairly. It was okay. It was standard sort of schoolboy stuff. And then I saw a young man called Kwena Mapaka, right? And I mean, it's something you can only
Okay.
acknowledge once you see it. Okay, like it's one of those things where you see a kid. I mean, this boy's 15 years old. Okay, he's been given an opportunity in the first team. Um,
Yeah.
played a little LPL, did well there. I'll give you some of his stats. But I saw this boy bowl, and let me just give you his bowling figures for this game. Right? Um, he came through and he bowled 5 overs. He took a fiver, and he only went for 8 runs. This is a
Yeah.
15-year-old boy. Okay,
Can
they're
we repeat
playing
that again?
against seniors. He bowled 5 overs. He took
Yeah.
5 wickets,
Okay.
and he only went for 8 runs.
Oof.
Okay,
I want to
and
see
this
this boy bowl, man.
this is against Potch Gimmies, boy, and we all know that it's not like these boys can't bat, right? It's not like these boys can't play, but
Yeah.
he's one of those boys with a quick action in the crease, um, a smooth run up towards the stumps, and really holds his line and length really well. He bowls a deadly Yorker. Now I want to show you something. Let me come out of here. And the reason why I went to 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 sort of force to go get some visuals for this is because you can only you can only understand what I'm telling you when you see it. Right. So just a shout out to Pitch Vision for the visuals. I think they're doing a great job in scoring a lot of the senior games. If you're in high school and you're in the first team, look up Pitch Vision, look up Web Sports, and really get your stats online so that we can see what you guys are doing and we can give you guys your props where you deserve them. Right. Anyway, I just had to get that out the way. So I want you to watch this. Right. So these are all 5 wickets that the kid took. Right. And it's important to watch how the batsmen play him, right? And I have to reiterate, this is a 15-year-old boy. Yeah.
Like first team.
Playing for the first team, right? Playing with seniors, big boys, and they gave him the new ball, mind you.
The first team of the
Number
number
two
two team in the world,
in
in
the
the
country.
country.
Yeah, yeah. And he's been
Okay.
given the new ball. And this is how nerves of steel, man. Like nerves of steel. This boy is no joke. Let me play this for you so you can have a look. Right? Smooth run up,
Mm.
quick action, nowhere to be found.
Oh,
Fantastic. Bowls a
express.
middle stump. That's a top order batsman right there, man. That's a top order batsman. Yorker, done,
Oh,
done, right? Leaves him out to dry. And I mean, you can see the boys around him aren't necessarily too surprised, right? Because clearly they faced him in the nets. He comes through again, left arm, LBW, right?
Hey,
These, I mean, these
hey,
batsmen see
Benz
nothing.
is nowhere.
Nowhere.
He's nowhere.
Nowhere to be found, mate. Nowhere to be found right now. Yorker. So, I mean, this boy he's literally unplayable right now. When I look at how these batsmen are playing him, and mind you, this is the top order.
Oh,
This is the
hello.
top order. This is the
He's
top order.
dismantling this top order.
So
What's this boy's name?
his name is Kwena Mapaka. If you don't know who Kwena Mapaka is, where have you been living? Are you under a rock? This boy is phenomenal. I'm going to put that out there right now. This boy is phenomenal.
St Stithians, take care of him. Take care of that boy.
Yeah.
He's got some good years in him still. At the school. He's got some good years still. That boy can play, man. I'm impressed.
Look after him, you know.
He's smooth.
He's smooth.
That action's gonna last him a minute, a good minute.
Yeah. Definitely going to, man. I think they condition him right, control his workload. He's playing for under 15s again today. They hadn't bowled yet when I last checked the game, but you can see giving him an opportunity to play in the first team, and he just did not disappoint. The boy is a phenom, and I think
was this his first game with the first team?
Yes, I haven't seen another game. The rest of the games I've seen prior to this have been with the under 15s.
Okay, so he got the call up and he stepped up. Okay,
look at that, man. Nerves of
now we know we've got somebody who's got the potential. There's a kid now. He's first one on the board.
Yeah,
first one on the board. This boy can play. I'd love to know how quick he is because he looks tall, man. Looks like a lengthy boy.
Yeah. He does.
Look, when you look at that video when he stands next to the keeper, I don't know if the keeper is short or he's tall.
Yeah. No, I think it's one of those, man. You know, when you go away for the winter, and then you come back, and you just like, where did this height come from? You just shot up out of nowhere, dude.
That growth spurt.
Yeah, that growth spurt kicked in. Yeah, so I've seen a few pictures of him last year and like the year before, and he was still quite small. Definitely sort of not ready for the first team, but you can see he's had a bit of a growth spurt, and clearly his action is fantastic and he's effective. Clearly he's effective.
Yeah. And he's accurate.
Yeah, he's dude. He played some of his stats, for instance. He played in the LPL, he played for Mzansi Hawks. Bowled 3 overs, took 4 wickets for 16 runs in a T20. Again, dominate. And then he played last year. He played one of the games that I was able to have a look. He also played for Saints under 15. It's probably 14 around that time. But if it gets this talented, you bring him up. Bowled at 4 overs, took 4 wickets for 17 at an economy of 2.13. So listen, the boy, like, I mean, he's undeniable, right? And he plays other sports, obviously, because then sort of through the different times of the year, the guys are required to play other sports. But we have to do everything we can to keep this kid in cricket. We have to encourage.
You should have a chat with this boy, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna look up the school. I'll reach out to the school, see if we can have a conversation with the coach and the player, and just to hear what their intentions are with him. But he's definitely on our radar. He's our first 5-wicket hauler for our season. So Kwenama Mapaka, you are groundsman certified, boy.
We see you, man. We'll be looking out for you. We'll be looking closely. St
Yeah.
Stithians and you now. You guys are my pick. You guys are my pick from the get-go. So now that I know that I've got a speedster. I've got a nice little cool emotion there. Oh, at the top of the order. I've got some killers at the top of the order.
Yeah,
I've got some killers in the
you got
bowling
Ruben
department.
Dutoy, you got Josh Elliott at the top of the order, you got Kai Pillay, you got Richard Siletswani at the top of the order, my man. There is proper firepower in that top five, top six.
And we don't even know who those number 5 and 6 boys, what they can do. Because they're there for a reason. You don't get that number 5 slot if you're not a butcher.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't even
With the
know
technique. Butcher with the technique. Yeah. And you can hear, you can see Seletswane play. His technique is sound. He's probably batting 5 because we've seen the top 4, right? So it's not like he's being done a disjustice and injustice batting in at 5. So he's coming in, he's doing a great job. And there's great opportunity there. I think this team is priced to do well. We'll keep an eye on them. We'll be watching you. We'll be watching.
Yeah. And if you're interested in going to see these boys, where can they get that? Is that on Pitch Vision? You want to go see more Silicone bowling and some of the boys playing?
Yeah, go watch it on Pitch Vision. They stream some of the games live. So go on and have a look. Usually on the weekend in the morning, you'll find out who's playing who, and sort of the lineups up there. And you can watch the game from your own home. I know we're still in the COVID era. You can't always go out, but some of the schools do allow parents and spectators to go and watch. So if you wanna go lay eyes on Kwena Mapaka, Ruben Dutoy, Josh Elliott, Kai Pillay, Richard Seletswani, go out, man. Go and have a look. I'm pretty sure they allow some parents and visitors to come. If they don't, then you can always just watch it on Pitch Vision.
Yeah.
All right. So I think as a roundup, those are the games. Those are the games that we're reviewing for the weekend. Some big scores: 391 for 3 in 50 for St Stithians. We saw Waterkloof score 425 for 7 against Fields College, and then we then sat and watched Waterkloof come in and do exceptionally well. Scoring big as well against Centurion. So congratulations against Montana. So congratulations to the teams that won this weekend. I think you did fantastically well. We got some big hundreds up this weekend. We're going to start setting up our top batsmen, top bowlers lists that are coming up. We might even maybe do a top keeper, depending sort of on the catches that the keepers take, give them some shine. Shame bookkeepers, they do a lot of work but never get some love. Do a top keepers list. We're looking forward to that, but it's really great to see that first weekend of sort of warm-up games. We got some big hundreds, we got a fiver out of there, and we've got some middle order guys that are looking to pump for the season.
I think it's going to be a very, very interesting season, man. I think the boys have set the tone. I think the first weekend games, we've set the tone, guys. We're expecting to see more big scores from everybody else. Now I don't want to talk about so and so scored 182 and they were bowled out for. Nah. Let's see. There's batsmen out there. The bar's been set.
Yeah. The gauntlet has been laid down, man. I think the Saints, Waterkloof, and Rustenburg High have drawn a line in the sand. That's what this is.
Yeah. So if you're not converting, we're going to be critical, man. We're going to be critical because we know there's boys that can.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us for this segment of the show. That was the roundup of the weekend. Great scores, great players. We've highlighted some of the groundsmen's favorites. And I think there's the great games coming up, and we're going to have a lot to say about them as well. T?
Yeah, man, it's a good episode. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm interested to see now when the rest of that top 20 list start playing games. See what else is out there, who's competing, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from the coaches, man. I saw the interview with Coach Norris. I thought that was very insightful, and yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot more coaches corner episodes coming out. So yeah, it's very interesting to get feedback as well from the coaches, and we'll start to hear from the players as well as to what's next, what's going on. Like we said, St Stithians, reach out to us. All the other boys, Waterkloof. We'd like to hear from the guys in terms of your performances, how you felt, how you're looking at the season going forward. Yeah, man, I'm excited. I really am.
Yeah, that's great, man. Because I'll tell you what's fantastic. These coaches have really been good at responding to us, right? St. John's, Dale College, some of the other schools are starting to come through as they get back to school. So the coaches are really out here to really give a good representation, one of the cricketing programs that they work with, but also to give the boys an opportunity to develop in talking to us, and knowing that really what they're doing is not sort of sitting in the dark somewhere. So I think we're getting some good progress in showing what talent lies in South Africa.
Yeah,
Cool.
great.
Um,
Fantastic, man.
Great, man. All right. Now moving on to the next segment of the show, and again, like we said of um, at the beginning of the show, and part of the reason that we started the show is that we really wanted to give an understanding of what this beast that is school cricket, and sort of the tentacles that connect to school cricket and these kids, what that looks like, and just give parents and players an opportunity to get an understanding of the landscape, when they should be asking their coaches, coach, are there no trials for for sort of regional trials, and that sort of feeds through to the provincial trials, and then they go to the tournaments at the end of the year. So and I mean, we know, right, T? We know some schools sort of cherry pick whichever player they want, um, and they then sort of decide that's just who they're going to pick, and then that's that, right? So not all the boys get an opportunity to go to the regional trials and really get a show. So
Yeah,
as parents, if you're watching the show, this is an opportunity for you to get an understanding of what the structures look like, what are the different tournaments that are available to you and your kid towards the end of the year. Obviously, there are trials that they have to go through. There are quote unquote gatekeepers. And it's usually sort of coaches of the different high schools, the first team coaches, that give their insights around who should be picked for the provincial teams, and eventually they go then to the tournament at the end of the year, and everybody gets to play against each other. So this is an opportunity for you. We're going to start, I think, with the um, the Michaelmas Cricket Festival coming soon. If I've got it right, so the 2nd of October, the Michaelmas Cricket Festival that comes up. That's out in Maritzburg College. That's not a provincial anything. That's just schools that come together. Big cricketing schools come together. It's a really old tournament. This is the 61st edition of the Michaelmas tournament, that starts on the 2nd of October. So they play for a few days. They start on the 2nd, they end on the 5th, and it's literally like everybody we follow, and I think a couple of other KZN teams. For instance, you've got St Stithians, you've got Pretoria boys out there, we've got Great College, Cares, St John's, JP, we've got St Andrews, We've got Affies, we've got Hudson Park, St Albans, we've got St David's that are out there. I mean, these are the big boys, right? In the game, we've got St Charles College, we've got Hilton, we've got Michaelmas, we've got Westville, we've got Glenwood, we've got Durban High School, we've got Clifton College, we've got Norwood. So honestly,
This is the World Cup.
it's like a school's World Cup, right? So
Yeah.
um, anybody who's invested not just time but resources into their cricketing program is out here to compete with the best of the best. Um, so
Yeah.
so here, this is where we're gonna see our Kwenama Mapaka really see if he gets an opportunity to go to the Michaelmas, if what he does against some of these big boys. We will be watching. Um, the 60th edition was in 2019. Obviously, didn't have one last year because of COVID. And they had about 22 schools participating there. So it's a decent tournament, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it looks like this is. I'm keen to see the others, but this looks like this is the tournament to look out for. The boys that perform here are the ones to do some damage at tournament
Yeah.
later on this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the schools you see here are the ones that you see the names when the boys are picked for their provinces. They come out there. I mean, to have St Stithians who scored 391 over the weekend, sort of in the first warm up game, is clearly um, something to look out for, and giving opportunities to youngsters like Kwenama Mapaka is fantastic. So that's the first tournament that I think everybody needs to look out for. I think, and also I think the Marisburg College is also open to hearing other schools, right? So usually, from what I understand, it is an invitational. You get an invitation to come through. If you're a big school, we saw, excuse me, we saw Waterkloof post big scores. We saw what is it, Rustenburg High do really well out in Rustenburg. It would be great to see some of the Northwest schools come out from there, head down to Marisburg College, and really get a good roundup of teams from around the country, not sort of just the Garden Route, sort of Western Province and Gauteng. We'd love to see some of the other big schools in some of the other provinces come out. Okay. So, so we had also a few other tournaments coming up. SA Under 19 World Cup coming up in 2022 in the West Indies. So I think this
That's a
crop of
big one.
players, that's huge, mate. That is huge. A lot of Proteas
Definitely going to
players
be
come out.
following that
Of
selection
course,
process.
of course, of course. The groundsmen are all over that, man. All over that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think they do a lot of work. They had two camps historically. So they had one in Pretoria. They had 22 players that fell under inland. So they had some Titans boys, Lions boys, and the VKB Knights. 22 players out in Pretoria that sort of run in the week. And what they do is that they run them through their paces, through their drills. So you got the SA under 9, SA guys, SA schools guys that got picked, and then a couple other players that are sort of 19 come through, 22 of them in Pretoria. And then you got a second camp in PE, guys that come from the Warriors, the Cobras, and the Dolphins, also sit out there and they run through a camp. So those are sort of some of the camps that go out there, part of the acceleration program that sort of set up by Cricket South Africa to try and make sure we get the best players in that World Cup squad. Okay, so if I were to give you a roundup, right, of all the tournaments that are going on towards the end of the year, where all these players throughout the different age group that Cricket South Africa set up, obviously in partnership with Momentum, and in the under 19 with Coca-Cola. is that we've got the Coke Week that usually runs from around the 16th to the 20th of December. They run, so the first half of the year, which is the summer, the boys sort of play in their leagues, and then the second half of the year they also start up again, and then they play some independent tournaments. But usually that's where sort of the crux of the selection time comes in, right? So a lot of boys then get called up around this time to go for trials. Then they'll put together each provincial side together based on the regional selection. So they'll have each region form a team. Those regions will come together, then go and play each other for in sort of a 3 or 4 day kind of camp away. And after the 3 or 4 days, they then select the provincial side that will go out and represent Gauteng, Northerns, KZN, Western Cape. And then all of those teams will then sort of play warm-up games leading up to the Coke Week at the end of the year. And that's where everybody battles it up to try and make that SA Schools team that goes to the World Cup when it's the year for the World Cup. And then sort of moving up to then starting with the under 13. So there's an under 13 momentum tournament, Cricket Week that comes up. That's usually a little bit earlier on in the year, in December. That's between the 17th and the 13th of December. We're still verifying dates around this year's week and when and where it's going to be. As soon as that comes out, we'll let you guys know for sure. And then we've got the under 15 Cricket Week. That again is also a little bit earlier. That's from the 5th to the 9th of December, where the under 15s go out and battle for the number one province out there. And then we've got the under 17 Momentum Cricket Week, which is from the 11th to the 15th of December. Right. So I think there's quite a few cricket weeks at different age groups that allow the players to develop and get a little bit of insight on who their competitors are around the country, and just get a little bit of a taste to say, you're living in your own little province. This is what's happening outside of there. This is what the boys are doing outside of your province. And honestly, that's part of why the groundsmen are here as well, so that you don't have to wait for Coke Week in order to see who's who and what's what.
Yeah. And just to recap, right? So I'm a parent and I'd like to understand just how this, from a layman's perspective, right? So I first need to make the first team in my school, right? And then after that, I live in a town. I live in Rustenburg, and now I need to make the Rustenburg team of my age group.
Yes.
I go to those trials. So those trials would typically take place at one of the high schools in Rustenburg.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, so from there, I then make the Rustenburg team, and then Rustenburg team competes, he said, over a 3-day tournament with, say, for instance, Klerksdorp, Potchefstroom, Lichtenburg, and they all then compete.
That's right. So at that tournament,
now what's happening at that? How are they selecting kids at that tournament?
Okay, so once you get to that tournament, I guess the base assumption is that we have the best players out of every region, right? We got the best players out of Rustenburg, out of Lichtenburg, out of Potch, out of Klerksdorp, right?
Yeah.
And now we need to select. We need to put those teams together. So normally, what that structure looks like is that they'll say, let's say a 4-day tournament. They'll then play the first 3 days. The teams get to play each other. First 3 or 2 days, right? After those 3 days, then the coaches or selectors will then come together and say, okay, I think this is the A side, and I think this could be the possible B side. On the last day, they'll then remove those players from those teams, put them in sort of those 2 identified groups, and then they'll have maybe a C side and a D side depending on how many regions there are, right? Everybody knows this. I know it
Yeah.
gets a bit tricky, and it's like, what about the boys that get left out? But hey, if someone's got to get left out, right? So the boys that have performed
Yeah.
well over the first 3 days, from a stats perspective, you've bowled well, you've batted well, you've kept well as a keeper, to give them two options for keepers or even three. They then put them in those two teams. And then on the last day, they get those two teams to play against each other. The outperformers from those then two teams are the ones that the selectors say, okay, we think this is our best squad of 15. And this is the squad we're going to take to the under 13, 15, 17, or 19 week at the end of the year.
Okay. So I'm with you now. So once they get that's then for instance, that would then be the Northwest team selected for either under 13, 15, 17.
Yeah.
And 18
under
or 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then after that, where do they go? They then head off to the tournaments that we're now talking about.
Yes. They then head off to the tournaments that we've spoken about now. As a team, they get gear, they get shirts, all of that. They usually have a tournament sponsor. They usually either stay at a university in that town, or one of the big schools. If there's a big school with a hostel that can accommodate the boys. And it's very well organized, I must say. So you get there, there's fixtures already. Generally, then the team managers for those provincial sides would have sent through the team lists, with whether they're left-handed, right-handed, batsman, bowler, wicketkeeper, captain, all of that stuff. Information is sent through to the tournament organizers. So by the time they get there, everything's already prepped. They then give them the schedule, and then it's go time, right? It's go time, head to head. Everybody plays each other. And at those tournaments, then you sort of have an outcome to say who sort of won the tournament, who played well, who had the highest average. There are those kind of sort of awards at the end of the tournament. At a what do you call it? At the end of the tournament, and what that then gives you, in like a hall where all the boys are sitting, and it's actually quite nice for them because they put on their chinos, they put on their white shirts, their formal shoes, and they sit in a hall. Then all the best under 13 batsmen, best under 13 bowler, 17, 15 in the different tournaments. What makes the under 19 the Coke Week special is that in that week is when they sort of announce the SA under 19 and Colts players. And they then sort of get given their colors, and everybody knows who they are and who's going to be representing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really fantastic.
It sounds quite like they try and give the players a bit of a resemblance of what it feels like to be on a professional stage.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? Because if you can imagine, these players move from that at sort of the Coke Week, and almost automatically for those that the provinces or the franchises see massive potential in, if they're not already in their academy setups, they then, some of them get like directly into sort of the Lion squad, or into the Titan squad, or into the Knight squad, Dolphins, that kind of thing. So it really is an ushering of a new generation or a new crop of players, who are set to carry South Africa to the next level. And honestly, if we're honest with each other, the players that come from there are the ones that are essentially that we sort of hang our hat on to win us a World Cup. So it's very important that we, as the groundsmen, as the general public, you don't just look at the Proteas from when they become Proteas, because there's there's very little you can do once they sort of get to that level, because there's not a lot of scope to find players outside of sort of the current system or the current crop that's there. You have to look at the players from from sort of an under 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 level in order for us to protect the talent that we have. And I mean, some of the issue, and we've seen it, a talent drain in South Africa, is that we've got players. Not everybody gets an opportunity to play for South Africa. Number one, not everybody gets an opportunity to play for SA schools, and not everybody gets an opportunity to play for a franchise side. So what you're getting now with T20, especially with some of these, with some countries looking to develop their cricket. For instance, in the US, they're recruiting players as young as 17 years old, right? They're recruiting players as young as 17 years old to go and play out in the T20 league out in the US, and hopefully play there long enough to get citizenship and eventually play for the US national cricket team. So we've seen the Rulo van der Merwe go out and play for the Netherlands. I saw another young player on my feed who now just got called up to the Ireland to the Irish national team. So there's a bit of a talent drain, and unfortunately, if we're not taking care of the talent as it develops. And I know Cricket South Africa, we've spoken about the tournaments and how they try and feed players in and get guys in. There are things like hubs that essentially are sort of there to fast track some of the previously disadvantaged areas. A lot of people will say the currently disadvantaged areas still. To essentially have high performance centers in there, regional performance centers that then feed up and give guys an opportunity to play provincial at a higher level. There are opportunities like that out there, but again, there's something we're missing. And as the groundsman, that is what we're going to try and uncover. That is, we're trying to uncover the missing piece and how we lose some of these really exceptional players to other countries when we're sitting here and we're thinking of rejigging our provincial structures or even our franchise structures to try and accommodate more talent and get a larger talent pool. But we're still losing players to other countries. So that is, I think, on a deeper level, that is what we're trying to do, is really not lose some of those fantastic players to other countries and other parts of the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's almost understanding that if we can't even take care of the ones we do find, there's no point in opening up the scale to find more players. Because even the ones that we do find, we don't know how to take care of them. Yep. So it's about, we're trying to figure out where's the part where we lose them. There are some players we've already found. How does a Kevin Peterson end up playing for England?
Yeah.
Nobody ever really asked that question. And, there's a lot of players like him that played county cricket and decided they're going to go play over there. How does that happen?
Yeah.
How do our players become the best in other countries?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we can't use them.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see it with sort of these Colpack deals that were around and they were popular a few years ago. And you have to understand, right? And I think this is where we sort of need to be quite vigilant and understand if a country or a club, well, it's essentially that country's cricketing structure, locks you into a contract that stops you from playing for your country, you have to understand how much they value that player. Okay? So we need to get to a place as a cricketing nation and as a cricketing family that we re-look at our structures and understand where do we lose these guys, and how does someone in the UK see talent that grows up right in front of us, right? So imagine, for
Yeah.
instance, a Kwena Mapaka, right? Goes to St Stithians, considered sort of a privileged kind of school and area. He plays different sports. 3 years down the line, he's playing squash or something, and he's not really. He's plays for a club. He's maybe gone to the cricket weeks, but hasn't really been absorbed into the structure and given the support that he needs to maintain. Because remember, it's also important to remember that just because you go to these schools doesn't mean your family can afford to keep you there. Number one, some of these kids are there by scholarship. Not saying that Kwena is, absolutely not, right? A lot of these schools offer
Yeah.
scholarships. What I'm saying is that there's a part in a young cricketer's career where he looks around and says, you know what? Yes, I've got talent. Yes, everybody in my school is saying 1, 2, 3, but going to the next level, how do I tell my parents that this is what I'm going to do when I'm sort of the hope for the next generation, right? I'm the kid that
Yeah.
is going to go to varsity, maybe get their honors and masters in sort of this work environment, and get into the job environment, and help out back at home. How do I tell them that I'm going to pursue a game? I'm going to pursue cricket instead of that, right? So I think
Mm.
there's a level of support, and really, I'm not just talking. And I want everybody to understand me quite clearly. Is that I'm not just talking about um, uh, the color players in South Africa. This is not about the quota system or anything like that. It's just about players who want to play, players who are exceptionally good, um, but just don't have the support to go to the next level. Right now, we're talking about St. Stithians, St. John's, we're talking about Roundup and some of these other schools. But we are also talking about Potch Gymnasium. We're also talking about Fields College. We're also talking about uh, boys in Lichtenberg, right? Though we're talking about everybody and what the talent pool looks out there, no matter your color, no matter your where you come from, the area you come from. It's about finding a way for us to have equality of opportunity, not outcome, an equality of opportunity that allows us to build a Protea side that wins us a World Cup.
And yeah, man, just to add on that, I think what you're speaking to with regards to a player having to make that decision, I think that's even bigger. That's any student athlete at some point has to make that decision. And it's a risk for everybody
Yeah,
to decide I'm going to risk it all and I'm going to become a sportsman. That's a risk for anybody because we understand that there's only a few, there's a finite amount of guys that can actually play the game at that level.
yeah,
There's only a finite amount of spaces. We know that.
yeah,
So it's that decision that every parent as well, whether no matter what race or where you come from, you as a parent also go through that moment where you need to kind of decide, do
yeah,
I believe in this guy enough?
yeah. Do I
Do I
think he's
think
good
he can
enough?
make it?
Yeah,
Am I as a parent going to let my child take the risk of trying something that I know that probably 0.1% of the world can do?
yeah,
Or am I going to go with him and say, listen, rather get an education, get some studies in? That's a tough decision for any parent. And I think it's a great sort of touch point to hit on that you did, because I think every parent that has a kid that plays sports at a high level at some point has to deal with that conversation.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Listen, I think we can go on all day with this. We're definitely going to continue the
Yeah.
conversation next week. We got uh, a new sort of set of games coming up this week. have a look at our Facebook page, have a look at our Instagram, our YouTube videos. The podcast is coming out on YouTube. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and out there. So have a look at us. Listen to some of the pointers we gave our parents. I think we headed somewhere interesting here, T. We've got we've given a great sort of roundup around what tournaments are out there, what the progression structure looks like, moving sort of from normal school cricket right through to the provincial tournament. And we've got plenty more of that coming up. Plenty more of that coming up, guys. T, thank you so much for joining me, man. We really have a good time with you. Any last words?
No, man. It was a good episode. I'm looking forward to next week. Looking forward to hearing more about the results.
Yeah, we got a lot of games coming up from the Groundsmen. See you next week. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Groundsmen. Stithians, man. That top order just demolished him. So normally what that structure looks like is that there's, and honestly that's part of why the Groundsmen are here as well, so that you don't have to wait for Coke Week in order to see who's who and what's what.